There are moments in each of our lives when all of a sudden our lives change in an instant. Something comes and it just interrupts how we thought our life was going to go and puts us on a very different path. Sometimes it's something like a diagnosis or a tragedy or a knock at the door. Sometimes it's something like a pregnancy test or an accident. Just a moment, just an interruption, and all of a sudden our whole life looks so much different than we thought. Now, a Pharisee named Saul was passionate about God and God's law, and he persecuted people who belonged to this new church that they had sort of called the Way. He went to the high priest and he asked if he could go and he could arrest anyone who claimed to be part of the Way, and he was going to do this on his way to the city of Damascus, when all of a sudden his life was interrupted. A light from heaven flashed, and a voice came from heaven and said these words, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. And the voice responds, "I am Jesus, who you are persecuting. Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what to do." It's so interesting to me that Saul went from a persecutor to a convert, from the judge and jury to someone who now is dependent upon what Jesus is going to invite him to do. You see, he thought that his life was going to look this way, and he was passionate about it, but then all of a sudden his life looks absolutely the opposite. He has this encounter with Jesus, and Saul immediately does what Jesus says to do. He goes and he waits until he is told what to do. You see, Saul's commission, Saul's work, it comes from God. Saul's not just sort of left up to trying to figure out what it's like after he experiences this sort of flashing light in the sky. You see, the thing is, though, is that his whole life has actually led up to this sort of conversion moment. You see, God has been sort of prepping Saul for this entire thing his whole life. You see, Saul, he's a Pharisee, meaning that he has this deep understanding of those Jewish scriptures and that Jewish sort of way of life. Saul also, he's a Roman citizen. He was born in Tarsus, which means that as a Roman citizen, he is given more rights than a lot of other people. He's getting all the rights of a Roman citizen. Paul is a tent maker, meaning that he knows how to earn a living no matter what city he is a part of. He can go anywhere, travel to do. He can earn money and do work by his vocation as a tent maker. Saul is also fluent in Greek, so he not only speaks Hebrew, but he also speaks Greek, which makes him bilingual and able to relate to a lot of different people in this culture and in this context. All of these things happened in his life before he had this conversion moment on the road to Damascus. See, all these skills, these identities, these things are going to play into the work that God has invited him to do sort of after that moment, that God will tell him what to do with the future part of his life. Now, a couple of things I want you to note about this part of Acts. Number one is that Saul's conversion has nothing to do with Saul. It is all about God's work in Saul's life. God has been at work in Saul's life when he was a Pharisee, and God is going to be at work in Saul's life going in the future. God is going to tell him what to do. And number two, you and I often, we know more about Saul when he's called Paul. People like to sometimes teach that at this moment, at this conversion moment on the road to Damascus, that God sort of changed his name from Saul to Paul, but it's not like that. The truth is that Saul and Paul, they're sort of interchangeable, like people who are named Jack, who can also be named John, or people who are Charlie, and then they're also known as Chuck. Saul's Hebrew name is Saul, but then his Greek name is Paul. And so it depends on what audience he is talking to. So the way that he uses his name, it was common at that time. And it's honestly common today in today's culture, especially when you live in communities that speak more than one language. So the next thing that's about to happen to Saul is just as important as Saul's conversion moment. Jesus also enters into the vision of a man named Ananias. And Ananias is a disciple that we don't actually hear about very often. But I think what Ananias had to do in Scripture was really brave and took just a deep, deep amount of courage. Ananias hears the Lord in a vision. He tells him to go and place his hands on Saul. Now, no doubt, Ananias has heard of the reputation of the Pharisee Saul. And Ananias has to get the courage to go up and enter into the room where Saul now is. Saul's known for being a persecutor. He's known for killing people. He's known by standing aside while people are being stoned and hurt. And so Ananias has to drum up the courage to be able to go and help share what Saul's new mission is going to sort of be. You see, you can read Acts chapter 9 to find out how that conversation went. Friends, here's the thing. Sometimes when life is interrupted, it can make us feel blind and overwhelmed, or it can just cripple us in fear like it does Ananias. The truth is that God is going to show you the way through it. Maybe it's sometimes through another person having some wisdom, like when Ananias came to the blind Saul. But maybe it's just changing your purpose and direction into another way, like God did on that road to Damascus. The truth is that in moments, in interruptions, God has got you, and God will guide you to what to do.